What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Rutgers Rundown podcast, episode 11 for you here today. Nick Hart alongside my co-host, Matt Mangam. Matt, a little bit of a slower week as far as Rutgers sports goes. Things starting to wind down, just the spring sports left. We got baseball and softball, as well as men's and women's lacrosse. And then as we approach the spring game, just about a week and change away, we have some transfer portal news. But we'll start things off with baseball. Rutgers dropping 2 of 3 games this weekend against Minnesota. Game 1 was a 3-2 loss for the Scarlet Knights, and it was kind of what we've seen over and over again. The away team gets up, or the team that isn't Rutgers gets up early, and then Rutgers can't score until late.
Yeah, I mean, another tough series of loss for Rutgers, but I gotta say, if there was a trophy for winning games on Sundays, Rutgers would definitely get that. I mean, I'm looking back. I think they won the Sunday game of their series, or the last game, you could say, at least the past 3 series they have. And yeah, I mean, after defeating Washington, taking 2 or 3 against Washington, that series back in March, basically last month, I felt like, hey, now you got some games coming up against Nebraska, Purdue, Minnesota, all Big Ten teams that haven't really been the best. I'm like, you can definitely at least win a couple of these series here. And Nick, they've won none of those series. So it's been really tough for Rutgers baseball. I mean, looking at 18-22 overall, 7-11 in the Big Ten, it could be worse, but you feel like it also could be better.
It could definitely be a lot better. And I mean, I think especially the thing to look at is you finally got depth out of your starting pitching. Landon Mack went 8 innings, gave up 5 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned, and struck out 8 batters. And you kind of wasted that performance.
Mm-hmm.
You go on into game 2, Rutgers lost 8-4. It was a $1 ice cream helmet day. So shout out to ice cream helmets. But you saw a little bit more offense from that game from Rutgers. You saw Ty Doucette continue to show off his power with another homer. Brennan Hyde with a 2-run homer in the 8th. But again, Minnesota scored, Rutgers answered, and then Rutgers actually had a 2-1 lead going into the top of the 5th inning, which is where basically the wheels fell off because Rutgers gave up 5 runs in the top of the 5th as that's where things kind of hit the rails, if you will. Quinn Berglund was pretty solid up until that point, then had to be taken out in the 5th inning, and Rutgers couldn't limit the damage. So you wonder what the problem is. Is it pitching? Is it offense? Is it a combo of both? And I feel like this team is kind of a combo of both.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. We knew it's obviously a much newer team this season, so a lot of holes on both sides of the ball. You get to pitching and actual hitters and fielding. But I was looking at the Big Ten standings, and I mean, Rutgers, they're 4th to last, so it's obviously not great. But I'm looking also at the Big Ten, the top teams in the Big Ten, like Iowa, UCLA, Oregon, USC, and Rutgers honestly lucked out. They didn't have to face a lot of those teams. The only team that had to face that's in the top 4 is Oregon. They don't have to face Iowa, don't have to face UCLA, don't have to face USC. And 5th place is actually Washington, who they actually won the series against, sitting at 11-7 overall in Big Ten play. So Rutgers has gotten lucky. They faced Ohio State, Maryland, Purdue, Nebraska, Minnesota, Northwestern. These are all teams that are below 500 in the conference. So if Rutgers is able to string together some more wins, I mean, there's still more season left to be played, but they actually could be like a mid-table Big Ten team. But now they're still sitting 4th to last.
And then game 3, Rutgers, as you said before, takes the win. They're great at not getting swept.
They're bread and butter.
They always find a way to win the Sunday games. They put up 12 runs. They win 12-6. Saw Peyton Bonds get another homer under his belt, and a nice outing from Justin Shattuck. But again, I think just the inconsistency of you don't know what team you're going to get game in and game out. I mean, you kind of know a couple things are almost inevitable when it comes to this team, and it's going to be Trevor Cohen is probably going to get a hit. Ty Doucette's probably going to get a hit. And then after that, it's, anybody's guess to what the rest of the team is going to do. But, some bright signs, 3 batters now, 3 qualified batters, that is above 300. Trevor Cohen leading the pack at 360. Ty Doucette at 325. And J.C. Thompson at 303 with Bonds right up there with a 281 batting average. But, you look ahead to the rest of the season, and you have a game against St. John's on tomorrow, Tuesday, and then you go on the road to Ohio State. Got to find a way to to win some of these conference games. You can't keep taking one of three.
Yeah,
because
you could definitely sweep Ohio State. They're 2-16 in the Big Ten.
I mean, you
think
gotta
that.
you gotta find a way to even out that conference record. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's if you could finish with a 500 or better record in the conference and maybe a 500 overall record.
Yeah,
you kind of look at this season as salvaged.
I agree.
I wouldn't say it would be a good season, but salvaged. But
Yeah.
we'll move over, stay on the diamond, but now over to softball, which it's been a tough stretch for softball as well. 7 straight losses for Rutgers, 17-31 overall, 1-14 in conference play, still with a lone victory in conference play coming against Maryland all the way back on March 14th.
That was the first Big Ten game of the season, too.
So this past weekend, they faced off against Northwestern, and Matt, in 3 games, Rutgers scored 2 runs.
Yeah, I mean,
while giving up 22 runs.
Yeah, I was really gonna say obviously the bright spot of the team is obviously the pitching, and you say that, and it's like, oh, I don't really know about that, but we're gonna mention it. We'll mention it right now. Of course, obviously Ella Harrison was the bright spot in this series. You know, on Saturday she became Rutgers' season strikeout leader. I think it was her 194th, strikeout of the season. And now, Nick, she's only 10 strikeouts away from being in the career top 10 for Rutgers, which is pretty crazy.
Which you'd almost have to say that's a shoo-in for her to get, because she's going to pitch probably the 2 games in the next series. She's probably not going to throw against LIU, but you wouldn't be shocked to see her throw probably Friday and Saturday against Illinois. So you'd probably say, hey, she's going to get within the top 10 in her first season, barring, basically a season-ending injury at this point, because there 3, 6, 8 games left for Rutgers.
Yeah.
You have to assume she's going to pitch probably half of them, and I think it's safe to say she averages 2 strikeouts in each of those games.
Yeah, she's only a freshman, so she has plenty of time left in her career. But like you mentioned, I mean, another tough sweep. Like, it's just like this is, what is it? It's at least 3 or 4 straight sweeps in a row. Oh, well, it has to be, obviously, because they haven't once Maryland. But yeah, it's tough. I felt like, when they opened the Big Ten play against Maryland, the first game they won 5-1, and they lost 4-1. I'm like, okay, maybe this team, could be competitive. They still lost the series, but still competitive. And then it all fell apart. Obviously, tough games against Washington and Oregon, but it's just been, just a tough season for Rutgers softball. And I think that's really the only bright spot is you have a few good hitters, with L.A. Matthews and Bailey Briggs and everything. But besides that, it's just kind of like what else is there to look at? You know what I'm saying?
Well, you talk about getting swept. Maryland is the only Big Ten series that they did not get swept in.
Oh, man.
Lost 2 games to Washington after the first game was postponed. Then you lost 2 bad games against Oregon, giving up 20 runs in both of those games. Swept by Penn State in College Park. Swept by Michigan in Ann Arbor. And then swept by Northwestern at home. So Rutgers has only not been swept once in Big Ten play this season. And it's, again, your pitching's there, the defense is usually there, but it's the offense that has really been lackluster. You look at some of the averages, Rutgers only with 1 player batting above 300, obviously, again, qualified hitters. Jill Anderson batting 352, and then a big drop-off when you get to Bailey Briggs batting 286. So, and then you want to go even further, L.A. Matthews batting 280, and then after her, it's the next closest batter is batting 208.
Yeah.
So not a recipe for success if you're Rutgers. Kind of just have to look at this season as, hey, we're developing a young star pitcher, but I think the bigger problem now is finding a way to keep her in New Brunswick. You got to find a way to keep her on the banks for all 4 seasons. And honestly, if she does, she'll go down as probably the best pitcher that's come through this school as far as records go. But yeah, just a tough slate for them. As we said, going up against Illinois this upcoming weekend, 17-31 overall. That's a tough nut to crack. But we'll go over to a little bit more success. We'll go over to men's lacrosse, 6-8 on the season. They wrapped up their regular season with a tough 12-4 loss against Penn State, and they are set to play in Ann Arbor against Michigan this Saturday in the first round of the Big Ten tournament. And Matt, 8-6 loss the last time they played Michigan, so not completely out of the question that they can win that game.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a little shocked by the loss to Penn State on last Friday. 12-4 was kind of uncharacteristic from Rutgers. I mean, the defense has been kind of bright spot this season with holding opponents under, you could say, like 9 goals for a lot of these games with Carson Stiller as well. But kind of focusing more on the Michigan game, yeah, you're right. Only lost 8-6 last time out, and that was a game that felt like Rutgers had to win. And they were basically in it the entire time. I mean, they never led, if I'm correct, but they were always just super close. And now going over to Ann Arbor, playing, Michigan, hosting the tournament, so they'll be home the entire time, which is definitely a big advantage for them. Don't got to travel at all. It's their field. So it's still tough. It's very different. You're playing in Piscataway, now you're playing in Michigan. But the opportunity to pull off the win is definitely there. I wouldn't count them out completely. It's not like they're playing a team like Ohio State or Maryland, who I know they beat, but it's still Maryland's Maryland. So the opportunity is definitely there for Rutgers.
Well, yeah, and you go back to that Michigan game that was at SHI. They actually did hold a lead late in the
they did.
Halfway through the third. They had a 5-4 lead.
Oh, okay.
And then 2 straight goals from Bo Lockwood and one by Alex Lobel to take the 7-5 lead for Michigan, and Rutgers was unable to come back. Colin Cardillo scored a goal in the 4th, but they were unable to get the equalizer. And, it was a fairly solid game from Rutgers, but it was also a clean game from Rutgers from the stance of not giving up many man-up opportunities. Only 2 penalties in the entire game, a pushing penalty on Ben McKelvey in the 3rd, and a cross-check by Andrew Mejia in the 4th. Other than that, Rutgers clean on the penalty sheet, only 1 minute and 30 seconds of giving man-up opportunities. The one concerning thing was they didn't really take as much advantage of their opportunities on the man-up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Michigan had five penalties against them, and you got to take more advantage of that.
Yeah, I think the last 2 games, you could say the offense has maybe halted a little bit. I mean, obviously you're playing Big Ten teams that are really solid, so you're playing some of the best defenses in the country. I get that. But only putting 4 past Penn State's obviously not good. We've seen Colin Cardillo just be the guy all season. I mean, he's done it all. Against Michigan, he had a hat trick. He scored a goal at Penn State. But certain guys have kind of cooled down a little bit, like Aiello. You could even say Colin Kelly's goals in his last 2 games. So, yeah, you need different guys to step up more. I mean, there's definitely other goal scorers in the team, like Aiello, like I said, Colin Zeller, Shane Murphy, Colin Kelly, Hayden Summer. There's goals everywhere. So you need other guys to step up that are not even Colin Cardillo. That's definitely the key. So the defense, that's basically going to always be solid for you. I mean, obviously against Penn State, it wasn't. Maybe that was just a fluke game. I don't know. But you have Carson Stiller in net. You have a pretty good back line, I'd say. Your offense has got to score goals, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as that. We talk about it all the time. Carson Stiller has been excellent for Rutgers, 8.7 goals against average. He's made 167 saves, almost a 60% save percentage.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at that stat line, you say, oh man, this guy must not have lost a game. Well, no, he started every game for Rutgers this year, and he has a 6-8 record. So a couple games where, again, the offense has kind of let them down. The ones you look at are kind of the early season games, I think. Look at Stony Brook. You lost 9-8. Probably a game you should have won. Army, you got shut down.
Yeah.
St. Joe's, you only put up 5 goals. And I mean, that's one of those games you look back on and you're like, that's a game that could have maybe been the difference between Rutgers having to go on the road versus being home. You never know, but also there was Rutgers seemed like they played better against ranked teams this year than they did against of the nobody teams. And not just ranked teams, Matt, but fairly high-ranking teams with the exception of Penn State. Beat Johns Hopkins 11-8. You lost by 2 to Ohio State. You beat Maryland, who was number 2 at the time. And then you almost took down Michigan, who was number 14.
Yeah.
I mean, as crazy as it sounds, Rutgers was in a lot of these games against Big Ten opponents. The 2 or 3 games against ranked opponents, I'd say they looked outmatched. Army, which they lost 9-3.
Yeah.
Princeton, they lost 11-5.
And Penn State, probably.
And Penn State, yeah. I mean, even when they lost to UMass, they only lost 11-7. So this team has what it takes to hang with some of the best teams in the Big Ten. I think it's just a matter of how clean of a game they play and who steps up. That's kind of been an ongoing theme with Rutgers sports this year is who's going to step up in the big moments. You look at the basketball team, you always said Dylan and Ace. You look at women's basketball, you look at Destiny Adams. You look at baseball and you say maybe Trevor Cohen, whatever it might be. So Rutgers has to find that player to say, hey, listen, we're down a goal, go out and get it.
Yeah.
And honestly, at this point, who do you think that is?
Colin Cardilla. I think it's the easiest option. He's the leading goal scorer by a decent amount. He has 21, and Colin Kelly has 14, so he's up there by at least 7. So I'm going to say Colin Cardilla because if you look at every single game, he scored in every single game of the season except for Stony Brook and Princeton. Yeah, that's it.
That's absurd. And honestly, you can't count out Carden Stoller. 2 goalie goals. No,
that actually is true. He's, if he gets a shot, he could definitely score it.
Yeah. So they will, as I said, be on the road this Saturday, playing Michigan in the first round of the Big Ten tournament. And interestingly enough, Matt, if they end up winning, I wouldn't be shocked if they stay out there because the semifinals and the championship are going to be played in Michigan this year. So
yeah,
if you win, why not just stay out there?
Yeah, definitely.
But move over to women's lacrosse, who also wrapped up their regular season with a loss. They fell to Michigan 12-9 on Saturday, and they will play the number 2 team in the Big Ten tournament, Maryland, on Wednesday at 3 p.m. in College Park. Same deal there. It's hosted at Maryland, so you win, you stay out there. But
Wow.
Last time out against Maryland, you and I, Matt, were actually on the call.
Yes.
And Rutgers was 1 call away, essentially, from winning that game. If it wasn't for a dangerous follow-through call on Alex Popham, Rutgers wins that game because she scores a goal with 5 minutes left in the 4th. It's disallowed because of the follow-through, gets the yellow card, and in the blink of an eye, Maryland comes down. Who else but Corey Edmondson with her 40th goal of the year takes the lead with 4 minutes left.
Yeah, and if Popham's goal stood, that would have been obviously very important. Rutgers would have they could have definitely seen the win out to defeat the Terps. It would have been a big win, obviously. It would have ended a 3-game losing streak, but instead they lost. That was a 4th straight defeat, and they lost to Michigan on Saturday. They closed the regular season. Now going into this tournament with 5 straight losses is not a good sight to see at all. But yeah, they were right there. I mean, it would have been a little different. Like, think about it. If they beat Maryland and then they faced Michigan on the road on Saturday, who knows? Maybe they could have won that game. I mean, they only lost by 3 goals in another game. They actually were right in that game. That was an extremely, extremely back and forth game. I remember editing the article from our writer Morgan Andrews, and I'm just like, goal. It was just completely back and forth. So, this team is sitting at 8-9 overall, 2-6 in the Big Ten. They've been bad in some games. They've been good in some games. They've been inconsistent. That's the thing. You've seen games where they were right there, like against Maryland and Penn State, and games where they weren't even remotely close, like Northwestern and Johns Hopkins. So another thing is, like, what team you're going to get today? The team that's right there, the team that's not there.
Yeah, you're going to get the USC team and the Northwestern team, or you're going to get the team that played Maryland to a 1-goal game.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to point out about that game against Maryland, at one point, 5 straight goals scored by the Terps from the 12-minute mark in the 3rd to the 11-minute mark in the 4th. And then Rutgers obviously had 2 goals, the equalizer from Peyton Tini and the one to get within 1 goal by Alexa Corbin. But that's something you can't have. You can't go on a stretch of what is it, 15-ish minutes?
Like a scoring drought, yeah.
Yeah, you can't, especially not against a Maryland team like this. And one bright spot, if any, well, it was a bright spot for 3 quarters because Rutgers kept Corey Edmondson off the board until the 4th.
Yeah.
And then she completed a 4th quarter hat trick with her 38th, 39th, and 40th goal, which ended up being the winner.
Very impressive.
You got to be able to finish out that game. I'm sorry. You have to. And another thing, Matt, you and I saw it. We were there calling the game. Too many free position chances.
Yeah.
Simply put, that's how Maryland got back in that game. And I'm pretty sure the game winner was I think 2 of her 3 goals from Corey Edmondson were free position chances.
I believe you're right, because I'm looking, they were unassisted. So I'm pretty sure, yeah.
And then
that was a game winner. Yeah, you're right.
So, you look at just, what was it, 1, 2, 3, 4 different cards given out for Rutgers. Popham had 3 of them. A green card in the 3rd, a yellow card in the 3rd, and a yellow card in the 4th, which was for the dangerous follow-through on the goal. But still, Too many opportunities given to Maryland. They were
Mhm.
able to take advantage of that and ultimately win the game. And if Rutgers wants to beat them, especially on the road in a Big Ten tournament setting, going to have to be a cleaner game. You're not going to be able to allow those opportunities. You can't have the penalties. You can't give up free position chances the way that Rutgers did. But we shall see. As we said, that one will be on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Coverage on Big Ten Plus, and of course our very own WRSU. I will be taking the trip down to College Park, Matt, to be a part of that game. So maybe we'll get some nice insider.
Yes, safe travels.
Well, thank you very much. But we'll move over to Rutgers football as the spring game is just 6 days away. It is on Saturday. And we have a little bit of an interesting transfer portal situation unfolding, Matt. So Jalen Matthews, an offensive tackle out of Toms River North, committed to Rutgers. And before he ever stepped foot on campus, heck, before he even graduated high school,
Yeah.
he is in the transfer portal. So I'll give you a quick breakdown of the way things went, okay? So he officially visited Rutgers on May 31st of 2024. And then on May 31st, or excuse me, that was the official visit. On June 11th, 2024, he verbally committed to Rutgers. December 4th of this past year, he signs the paperwork. He's officially a Scarlet Knight. January 20th, 2025, he enrolls in Rutgers. April 16th, 2025, spring transfer portal opens up, and guess who's there? Jalen Matthews.
That's insane, man. This is people talking about the transfer portal and NIL and everything. I'm sorry, but this guy hasn't even gone to prom yet. And he's already in the portal. That's just insane.
So he's a 3-star, as we said before, out of New Jersey, the 52nd rated offensive tackle out of his respective recruiting class per 24/7 Sports, the 19th best recruit in the state of New Jersey. But I got to agree, Matt. It's just, I don't know where you go with the transfer portal from here. I mean, at this point, you have a kid that has not even left high school, hasn't gotten his diploma from his high school yet.
Yep.
As you said before, didn't even go to prom yet, and he's already in the transfer portal. Now, was he going to play at Rutgers in his first year? Probably not. But realistically, if you're going to a Power 5 school, do you expect to play in your first year?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, also we'll see where he ends up going. He was staying home. He was staying close to home. That was, obviously we know with Greg Schiano, obviously getting the guys from Jersey and everything, staying home. Look, he's from Toms River. That's also where head coach Scott Goodell's from, so shout out. But yeah, right over there, and we'll see where he goes. But I'm really wondering why. Why did you go in the portal? It was only 4 months. What could have happened in these 4 months? Did you not like the campus after a while? Did you not like the?
Not like
I
the
don't
campus.
know.
He hasn't even lived here yet.
Yeah, exactly. What could have drawn you away? Did you get another offer? Did you end up seeing the classes and you were like, oh, this is too hard for me? I mean, you didn't even take the classes yet. I don't understand. I really have no idea. Also, I just feel like, I mean, he's a high school senior. I feel like he's still kind of young. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm kind of shocked. Like, maybe 1 year on campus, maybe 1 year with the team. Okay, fine. We see that a lot. Players stay there for 1 year. They end up not liking it. They come here. They're like, okay, this isn't for me. Like Destiny Adams went to UNC, did not like it, came to Rutgers.
Yeah, spent 2 years at UNC.
Yeah, exactly. 2 years, okay, fine, give or take. That's still not that long. Then returned home, and she ended up being much happier. So we see that, but he hasn't even been on the campus yet.
I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. But I feel like that's kind of just what you have to come to expect from the new era of college sports.
Yeah.
Guys are not going to be staying at one school. You have to play at least 2-3 years of college football to be draft eligible, and most of these guys I think nowadays are going to be going to at least 2 schools. Very few people are going to stay where they started. It's the fact of the matter. I mean, whether you like it or not, it's just kind of the way that things have gone, and I don't see it getting any better in the coming years. But yeah, very, very interesting out of Rutgers football. We'll move over really quick, Matt, over to Rutgers women's basketball. And, not the greatest season by any stretch of the imagination, but a little bit of a nice story coming out of it as Rutgers forward JoJo Lacey was signed by the Washington Mystics as, I'm assuming, what they would consider an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, probably.
So the 6'1 guard and forward out of Boston College will be playing with the Mystics, which is nice to see. Going to continue her basketball career. It was a little bit of a surprise, though, that we didn't see Destiny Adams get any offers yet from the WNBA. Wouldn't be totally shocked if she does play professional basketball somewhere.
Yeah.
Definitely thought she had a chance of getting drafted, but hey, it's a solid, a solid accolade for Rutgers this season, because it wasn't the best year. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, congrats to JoJo Lacey. A great transfer, averaged 10.1 points per game, 5.3 rebounds. She had that great game against Michigan where I think she sunk, 6 3-pointers, something like that. Yeah, 6 for 11. Yeah, so obviously great stuff for her. And you're right, Nick. I know me and we were maybe I was watching part of the WNBA draft and we're like, wow, no Adams. We were anxiously waiting. We had a feeling she would probably be a third-round pick, but it didn't happen. But I'm like you said, I'm actually confident she'll be signed as a drafted free agent.
She's going to play somewhere, I believe. And
Yeah,
just a little quick tidbit. So Lacey joins Ariella Guriantes of the Chicago Sky, Kalia Cooper of the Phoenix Mercury, Betnesia Laney Hamilton of the New York Liberty, and Erica Wheeler of the Seattle Storm, all as former Rutgers players currently rostered in the NBA, per one of our alumni, Alec Krafthamel. And in other women's basketball news, there was an announcement made earlier today via Instagram that Kiyomi McMiller will be transferring, but she will not be going too far, Matty M. Transferring in the Big Ten, and will be playing for the Penn State Nittany Lions next season.
And we obviously saw the graphic of what team she was, considering. And if I'm correct, Penn State was not on that graphic. So they must have come out of nowhere and got her. I mean, and just recently, she torched Penn State in that comeback win for Rutgers in Happy Valley, too. So, yeah, she's a Nittany Lion. Very, very interesting. I'm actually really surprised she went to Penn State. I don't believe that she had an offer from them during her high school recruitment. But, yeah, she's in Happy Valley now. And obviously we knew she was transferring. When she entered the portal, we weren't surprised. Nobody was.
Well, we knew halfway through the season that she was going to be transferring.
But, I mean, Penn State, wow. So she'll at least face Rutgers at least once next season, and I'm sure that'll be a very big game to watch out for.
I wouldn't be totally surprised if they play twice, just because
usually they do.
That is usually one of those, home and away opponents, just because of the proximity to one another.
Yeah, that in Maryland, I'd say.
Other news also really quickly, Maya Petticourt announcing that she will be playing her last year of eligibility at Auburn. So a lot of movement for the Rutgers women's basketball team. Yeah, I mean, that's a solid program. I was a little surprised, though, because I feel like that was one player that you looked at and you said, all right, she's going to be here next year as well.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe like her and Bates were locks, and Zakara. Obviously, Bates and Zakara have announced their intent to return. But yeah, Maya Petticourt back in the SEC as well. I think she came from Texas A&M, right?
Correct.
So yeah, back in the SEC. I will say though, she did take a step backward last season. Had a good end to the season, I'd say, better than the start. I mean, middle. She had a great. I think she had a pretty good not WNIT. What was it? What was the format called? WNIT.
WNIT.
Yeah.
Against,
for some reason, I thought it was.
No, that was a Destiny Adams triple-double game. So yeah, that was the second game of the tournament.
But I think she had a good tournament overall for Rutgers. Where was I going with this? I don't know. But yeah, I'm just a little surprised that she went in the portal, and it's her third school now, I believe. So you're right, good transfer for her. But they've been active in the portal as well. So I mean, it hasn't been bad. Like they've lost players, but they are kind of rebuilding.
Yeah, and then also announced today that Nene Nadia, a transfer, will be joining Rutgers. So they've been pretty active in the transfer portal, getting in some players. And we learned today that the incoming junior from Boston College, will now be a Scarlet Knight. So, building it kind of piece by piece is Rutgers and Coquise, Washington. You get a lot of you've got a lot of Boston transfers we've seen in the past couple of years. Boston College, that is. So JoJo, and obviously 2 transfers this season.
Yeah.
Go through some quick stats: 4.4 points per game, 2.3 rebounds per game. So, be interesting to see where the new addition for Rutgers fits in, along with also some of the other transfers that we mentioned previously. But that is for that's for the winter sports. But we're now in full swing with the spring sports. Football is just around the corner, Matt, and a lot of exciting things coming up on the banks.
Yeah, I mean, even though it feels like it's been kind of a slow week, there still was actually a lot to talk about with the transfers and the Big Ten tournament. So yeah, definitely still a lot going on.
Without a doubt, I want to thank you guys, as always, for tuning into the Rutgers Rundown podcast. You can find us on YouTube at the Daily Targum's YouTube page. And, of course, you can find us at the Daily Targum website. But for right now, I'm Nick Hart, Matt Mangam, signing off for episode 11 of the Rutgers Rundown pod.